I'm Tanya Boteju, and I am the author of Kings, Queens, and In-Betweens and Bruised, which just came out recently. I'm a writer and teacher living on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations, also known as Vancouver, BC. I've been teaching for about 20 years, writing for about 5 or 6, and I'm excited to talk to you today. My book, Bruised, is about a young girl named Daya who has lost her parents in a car accident that she survived before the book begins. And when we meet her, she is coping with her grief in the way of bruising herself. And so obviously not coping very well. So when a friend of hers introduces her to roller derby, she actually sees that as a really great opportunity to continue bruising herself and tries out for the team and makes it. And she finds out a lot more than she thought from the sport and all of the people involved in it. Well, I love writing about teenagers. I'm surrounded by them all of the time at school, and I think they are incredible human beings. And so I sort of have gravitated towards coming of age stories. I do love reading them too, both YA as well as adult books around coming of age. I think it's a really messy, interesting time of life that obviously all of us can resonate, that resonates with all of us in some way or another. And so I like digging into that. I like trying to understand my students more, young people more through writing. And I think it's the stuff of good drama, right? I mean, it's probably the most dramatic time of our lives as we're growing up and as teenagers. And so that makes it kind of fun and interesting to write about. With roller derby, it was something that drew me to it because I was just coming off writing this book that is heavily involved with drag. And I was thinking of subcultures. I was thinking of communities that seem really vibrant and exciting like drag is. And roller derby was the first thing that came to mind. Even though I've never played it before, I really had admired it from afar and always thought of it as a really vibrant, interesting kind of subculture. And so I immediately thought of that, and I started delving into the roller derby world through people I know and just sort of traditional research process, and found out even more than I knew about it. But it all, definitely confirmed my thoughts about it, which is that it is a really unique sport and community and subculture and has a lot to offer in the way of things that I find really important, especially when I'm writing about young people, which is like finding community, finding chosen family, finding acceptance and inclusive communities, that kind of thing. Those things are really important to me. And so roller derby fit really well in with that. Teaching has definitely influenced my writing in a lot of different ways. Like I said, I've been teaching way longer than I've been writing professionally. And so those years of teaching, both teaching English and teaching creative writing, have influenced my writing practice, in that I was sort of learning how to write before and teaching it before I really was doing it myself, which is, I know, was backwards, but worked out really well in some ways. I'm inspired all of the time from my students' writing, what they're willing to write about and what they're willing to share with me. And they're really, some of them are incredible writers. And so that has helped to sort of inspire me and taught me a lot about writing too. And then the piece that has been really important, especially with Kings, when I started writing it, was teaching students, young people who are, constantly trying to figure themselves out, who are struggling with different things, watching them trying to deal with those things, managing or not managing. It's taught me a lot about how to write those characters and what students or young people need to see maybe more of in books. Just showed me a real need for the kinds of books that I hope I'm writing, books that will allow them to be seen and maybe show them that like normal is actually boring and it's okay to be weird and that's actually a strength. And to reach out, like I see a lot of students who are really stuck on being strong or looking a certain way and looking like they have it all together. And so that became really important with Bruised too, is, this messaging around strength looks a lot of different ways. So my interactions with students as a teacher have fed into what I see as important for me to prioritize and focus on in my writing. And I assume that's going to keep continuing on as long as I'm writing YA at least. Books that have greatly impacted me. I love Toni Morrison. She really opened up reading for me and what's possible and reading and writing and books. Not till university. I didn't really read anything before university that resonated with me. And so she was like an explosion in my brain when I read her, and have read all of her books and just adore her. A few Canadian authors that I'll mention, Succulent by David Cheriandy, who's a local author here, this SFU too. That book, a student actually suggested it to me, and I read it and just fell in love with it. It's an immigrant story. It again tells a story that we don't often see. It's gorgeously written, and I ended up teaching it for several years to my creative writing class just because I loved it so much. So that book is a top 5 for me. Another book that is my comfort book, it's like my go-to, I'm going to read it at the start of the summer as soon as school is out, again, is Fried Green Tomatoes by Fanny Flagg. It's an oldie but a goodie. It's sort of the atmosphere of that book is something I was going for with Kings, that sort of small town comforting atmosphere. I don't know, I think it's that it was one of the first representations of a woman loving another woman that I ever saw, even though it's quite subtle. There's this wonderful Southern setting, which I am always drawn to for some reason. And it's just funny and it's sweet and such a comfort for me. So those are a few books that I love.